customer walked into the workshop one morning looking completely frustrated. He said, "Olga, I don't understand. I spent a lot of money replacing my AC compressor just 2 weeks ago, and now the air conditioner has stopped cooling again. Please tell me the truth. Did they sell me a fake compressor?" The mechanic looked at him and smiled. He said, "Before we blame the compressor, let's inspect the whole AC system." The customer shook his head. "But the compressor is brand new. What else is there to inspect?" The mechanic replied, "Sometimes the newest part on the car is not the part causing the problem." He opened the bonnet and began checking the system step by step. The compressor looked almost new. The belt was fine. The electrical connections were good. Everything looked normal. The customer smiled and said, "You see? I told you the compressor must be the problem." The mechanic didn't answer. He continued checking. After a few minutes, he removed the expansion valve. The moment he looked inside it, he stopped. The customer became nervous. "What happened?" The mechanic showed him the valve and said, "It is blocked." The customer was surprised. "Blocked? How?" The mechanic explained, "When the old compressor failed, it released tiny metal particles and burnt oil into the AC system. Those particles traveled through the refrigerant until they reached the expansion valve. Because the opening inside the valve is very small, it doesn't take much dirt to block it." He continued, "Once this valve becomes blocked, the refrigerant cannot flow properly. Cooling becomes weak, system pressure becomes abnormal, and many people wrongly blame the compressor. The truth is, the compressor may only be suffering because another part has already failed." The customer became quiet. He had never heard that before. The mechanic continued the inspection. Next, he checked the condenser. Looking inside, he found dirt, contaminated oil, and tiny metal particles still trapped inside. He turned to the customer and asked, "Do you know what happened here?" The customer slowly replied, "No." The mechanic said, "When replacing a compressor, many people only remove the old compressor and install a new one. They forget that the condenser also stores contamination. If you don't flush it properly, all this dirt remains inside." He pointed toward the condenser and continued, "The moment the new compressor starts working, it pushes refrigerant through here. The dirt begins traveling again through the entire AC system until it returns straight into the new compressor. So even though the compressor is new, it keeps swallowing the same dirt again and again. That is why some new compressors fail after only a short time. It wasn't because the compressor was fake. It was because the whole AC system was never cleaned before the installation." The customer sighed and said, "So replacing the compressor alone was never enough." The mechanic smiled and replied, "Exactly. A compressor is only one part of the system. If the rest of the system is still dirty, the new compressor will eventually suffer the same fate as the old one." The mechanic continued working. Then he checked the filter dryer. He removed it and held it up. "This should have been replaced too," he said. The customer looked surprised. "I thought the filter was still okay." The mechanic explained, "The filter dryer is designed to trap moisture, dirt, and tiny particles. Once it has done its job, it becomes contaminated. Installing a new compressor with an old filter is like drinking clean water through a dirty filter. The contamination simply returns." The customer slowly nodded. Everything was beginning to make sense. The mechanic wasn't finished yet. He picked up the discharge hose and bent it gently. "Feel this," he said. The customer touched it and immediately noticed it had become hard and stiff. The mechanic explained, "Years of engine heat can make this hose lose its flexibility. Now imagine the expansion valve is blocked or the condenser is restricted. Pressure builds inside the system. A weak discharge hose like this may swell, crack, or even burst." The customer's eyes widened. "So one small problem can create another?" The mechanic smiled. "Exactly. That's how many expensive repairs happen. One ignored fault leads to another until the owner believes everything has failed." He continued, "A blocked expansion valve increases pressure. A dirty condenser keeps contamination inside the system. An old filter dryer can no longer protect the refrigerant. A weak discharge hose may fail under excessive pressure. In the end, everyone blames the compressor." The customer remained silent for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "Today I have learned something I never knew before. I was ready to buy another compressor, but now I understand that the real problem was hidden inside the rest of the AC system." The mechanic smiled back and replied, "A professional technician doesn't just replace parts. A professional finds the root cause of the failure and removes it completely. That's what prevents the same problem from happening again." So whenever you replace a car AC compressor, don't focus only on the compressor. Flush the evaporator. Flush the condenser. Clean the AC lines. Replace the filter dryer when necessary. Inspect the expansion valve and always check the condition of the discharge hose before completing the job. The mechanic looked at the customer and said, "Remember this whenever you're repairing a car's AC system. Never rush to replace the compressor alone. A few extra minutes spent flushing the evaporator, cleaning the condenser, and inspecting every component can save the customer thousands of naira in future repairs." The customer smiled and shook the mechanic's hand. "Thank you. Today I came here believing my new compressor had failed. Now I know the real problem was hidden inside the system. From today, I will never replace a compressor without making sure the entire AC system is properly cleaned." If you found this story helpful, subscribe to Eric Autotech. Every week, we share real workshop experiences, practical car AC tips, and simple explanations that can save you from expensive mistakes. The next lesson might be the one that saves your compressor and your money.